Hey folks, this is Bob. The party's over, the fat lady hasn't sung yet. Why I say that is because we really don't know what's going to go down in the next 3-4 months because of the minority government in place. Not only is there a minority government in place, it's just gone about and again done the same thing. Same as treated its allies very poorly, so they are beginning to rebel. I can see that in Maharashtra, I can see that in West Bengal, a little bit in Bihar. Similarly, the ministers that have been appointed, the 3, 4, 5 big ministers are the same. What comes to mind is why you keep that, why you do that is to ensure that some of the files that need to make their way out, like whether it's in news, or whether it is in infrastructure, power projects, airports, the way that Nijikaran has been done, disinvestment that is, crony capitalism doesn't come out in the open, right? Because what's happened right now, folks, is what happened to 5G, right? 5G is a bigger loss than the 2G scam that was, right? Why was 2G a scam and 5G not? Why? Because you've institutionalized corruption into the system. What was called corruption? Maybe now it's not called corruption. Maybe this is the way to do things. We don't know that. But because you brought down the previous government based on the same allegations, then you need to also answer similarly, right, to the people of India who's benchmarked this whole process based on 2014 when Achhe Din was supposed to come. But as Atul Kohli writes, what does he write? He says the real winner is democracy. Why did the BJP fail to increase its popularity? What are the strengths and weaknesses of opposition? Why they didn't increase its popularity? In fact, it stayed the same, and I believe its actual number is 26 to 32%. And this 37 is also still 5% people hoping that things will change, but I don't think they will, right? Economically, because the way they are looking at things is not this, like I told you the last time. So, Jeet Bhalla's economy or the common man's economy. In India, unfortunately, the common man's economy is what gave the results. Most of the seats won were in UP, right? And poor parts of Maharashtra. The reason being unemployment, raging inflation, frustration, desperation of the young, and unbelievable vote shift of the youth, the women, and the poor people towards the India Alliance. And that tells you a story. And as somebody writes, Inderjit Roy, UP, vote for democracy. Why Temple didn't work as a force multiplier for BJP? They lost in Ayodhya and in Varanasi barely, but won by 1.5 lakh votes. Just remember that it's the second lowest vote. The only other person who got the lowest vote, win by the lowest vote, was Chandrasekhar, and this is the second lowest vote. And as somebody says, for example, let me give you. Rahul Gandhi won by 3,90,000 votes. Dimple won by 2,21,000 votes. Akhilesh won by 1,70,000 votes. Even Kishori Lal Sharma won by 1,67,000 votes. But good old Prime Minister only won by 1,51,000 votes, right? That itself is an incredible story. And when you say this about, you want to compare yourself with Nehru, you say, oh, there's a lovely meme doing that, Baap hota hai, beta. Well, so the 3 terms that Nehru got, 364, 371, 361 seats. The 3 terms that good old Prime Ministers got, 282, 303 and 240. Not saying much about him and his popularity. Like I said, there is no Modi wave. There is only the heat wave. There is no Modi Leher. There is only Pepsi Leher. So, why checks and balances on power were key voter concern? And they were. And the important part for you is UP again. UP again, there are a lot of concerns about the way the counting was done, the EVMs were done. But the process will play itself out. But it says in 72 seats, BJP got less votes in 2024 than in 2019. That, folks, is a huge, huge story in itself. And suddenly, Modi Sarkar went to NDA Sarkar, Alliance Sarkar. Alliance, the buzzword, as President invites Modi. NDA for new, developed, aspirational India, says Modi. Decades old NDA, a natural alliance, says Modi. All right, now it's all a natural alliance, right? PM urges people to drop Modi ka parivar from social media. Well, he's done that because he's been forced to do that, because his personal ratings are at one of the lowest ever, right? In fact, in UP, the CSDS report suggests that 37% want Rahul Gandhi as Prime Minister and only 32% want him. So that's kind of a really, really big slap on the face. And just all of this was done. And you see this, what happened is, the Chamchagiri is back, the sycophancy is back. Madhya Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the weakest, the poorest state, Madhya Pradesh, is putting out full page ads in every newspaper. I mean, shouldn't that money be spent on the poor? Infrastructure, the basic infrastructure, whether it's medical and that's the story behind the NEET exam. The medical or the healthcare or the education is just in tatters, right? And even all these other things that you see, airports and what, nothing really new has been built in the last 10 years, barring solar parks, and nothing new has been built as far as ports, airports. It's all the same old thing going on, or changing hands in crony capitalism. That's it, right? And building off monopolies, and that's going to be terrible for this country, right? Big four intact. Modi sends big message. Heavyweights to do the heavy lifting. Of what the heavy lifting is, I don't know about. But also continuity in the PM office as Doval Mishra re-appointed. Mishra is 75 years old. I don't know whether you can. I mean, this is a slap on the face of the IAS. Does it mean that there's nobody capable there to replace him or Doval? This is a slap on the face of IAS, IF, any of our bureaucrats. Really, they really need to get up and have a coffee, right? And especially when Doval getting appointed in the NSS, especially when he's really done bad job in China, bad job with Nepal, bad job with Maldives. Here, Misuzu, India's visit hints as a possible reset in ties. Maldives House panel to probe 4 pacts with India alleges these agreements are threat to sovereignty and independence of Mali. The only place our Doval seems to be doing well, and that's the reason I think he's in play, is this. US NSA coming next week for first high-level engagement, Modi 3.0. But when will this person start saying Modi 3.0? Papers and news, it's still going on. I tell you, this Godi media will never lose. Ministers came to know of portfolios at first cabinet meet from envelopes. This is a shame. This is not how you run a government of equals, right? Giving up envelopes, right? I saw that class being held by Modi for all the just before the swearing in of all the ministers. Team Modi 3.0 takes charge by setting out their key goals. Again, change the nomenclature. It is not Modi 3.0. Either you call it Shah 1.0 or you call it NDA. About time. Need to balance regional national goals and NDA allies. Appellate tribunal quashes ED attachments of Praful Patel's as a washing machine. Praful, the most corrupt of the NCP. All of a sudden he's got his 150 crore property back, sea-facing property. Hey, Anki Dori, he refuses. He's offered a Minister of State. He says, I'm not going to take it because I was what do you call that? A full cabinet minister, so I'm not going to take it. Right? So there's a lot of problems in Maharashtra. They've got this government, BJP, really lost the plot in Maharashtra. And if it goes to the assembly elections with the kind of results it has, it's not going to get more than 35 seats as has been calculated. And if you combine this NCP, which is not going to get more than 10 to 15, and the Shinde, which probably 25, 30, you are getting these guys at 80. You're seeing, on the other hand, the MVA easily crossing 150, and with the Congress may even hitting 100, right? And the same problem is UP. And Rahul Gandhi taunts BJP lists inheritor ministers, remove Modi ka parivar suffix from X handles. Yeah, I don't believe this. And finally, right, we got this up going. The Sangh is upset. BJP to review performance in LS poll after Sangh voices concerns. The importance of Bhagwat, as Sanjay Barua writes, this is what the Sangh Parivar has to say to Modi ka Parivar after the election verdict. He says Bhagwat's remarks that should have been made at least 5 years ago was most certainly a rap on Modi's knuckles. Over the past 5 years, many in the RSS have been increasingly worried about Modi's divisive and self-serving politics. Modi may have hoped to liberate himself from RSS by creating a pan-Indian political base of his own, a Modi ka Parivar, but it was based on self-interest, a personality cult carefully constructed, and the aggrandizement of power and privilege. BJP ministers were not only becoming increasingly arrogant and distant from their own supporters, but had become corrupt and slaves to personality cult. Smriti Irani, one of them. Bhagwat NDA work brought it back, opposition not an adversary. Not only did he talk about that, he brought out the issue about fake news, he brought out the news about Manipur, and look at Manipur as burning again, and they lost both the seats to the Congress. Families evacuated as violence resurges, advanced security convoy of Manipur CM ambushed, Manipur CM's advanced convoy attacked, one hurt. Remember Manipur, CM Biren's acknowledgement of responsibility for state's continuing crisis, belated but welcome. He must act on it. And now comes the real scam, is the NEET. I'm going to talk to you about this. First, let me read out some of the news headlines. Supreme Court sanctity of NEET UG affected. We need answers. Government opposition trade barbs as NEET row intensifies. NEET UG row retest for 1563 candidates and option exam sanctity affected, says top court. Now, let me tell you the story about NEET, folks. Right? After much study, NEET. There are 1,25,000 seats for MBBS available, out of which 55,000 seats are in the government sector, where you only pay 50,000 rupees or so annually. The others are available in the private sector, where you pay up to 50 to 60 lakh rupees to 1 crore 50 per seat. Right? Now, obviously this creates corruption. Because everybody says that what the hell, I'll spend 10, 50, 20 lakhs, but then if I get a government seat, I only pay 50,000 a year. On the other hand, if I get to have to go to the other side, what am I going to do, right? So I'm going to spend that. That's why the NEET thing is a leak, not only a leak, it's a systematic leak done. It's a business model to make money and to privatize medical education. That's okay, that's done globally. But in India, it is just not possible. And it's now being hogged up with then the money is just going to a very few people, right? Now, look at this the further you go, right? Not everybody who passes the NEET becomes a doctor. Why? 23.35 lakh people appeared, 13.86 lakh passed, 99,927 seats available, both government plus public. What will the 12.5 lakh people do who pass NEET? Right? Some will go into Ayush, some will go become dentist, some will become veterinary, but 11 lakh people, nothing to do. Tied to this is another massive scam. Let me tell you another massive scam that happens when the things are going to come out, right? Initially, when this whole government started, it says 40 crore skill India and provided a budget accordingly. When questioned, it says 50 lakh only were skill upgraded. When further asked, how many of this got jobs? 9.6 lakh people in 10 years. Is this what government was all about? And hence, Agniveer, folks, became the issue. On armed forces table, let double the Agniveer, stay back, train them longer. Agniveer has not only destroyed the preparedness of our infantry, which is critical on the Chinese border. Maybe not so much on the Pakistani border, but absolutely on the Chinese border. Not only has it done that, it has put the Nepalese Gorkha, which was a fighting arm, the punching force of India's infantry, into play. It's either fighting for the Russians, or now I'm told being recruited by the Chinese. And on the other hand, what is this Agniveer thing done, right? And the unemployment issue. Amritsar youth fighting for Russia army killed on Ukraine battlefield. 2 dead governments, Russia against recruiting Indians. Russian-Ukraine war, Amritsar man among 2 killed. His wife says died in action in March. Pushing Russia to free Indians serving in its army, says MEA. No one knows if my husband's body is in Ukraine or Russia. This, folks, is the story of unemployment and Agniveer. And the other sad story of unemployment is this. 49 mostly Indians killed in Kuwait building blaze. Everybody in the Middle East wants Indian workers, but hey, they don't treat them well, they're mistreated, they're treated like bonded labor, their passports are taken away, they're put up in really poor conditions, and this is what happens. But we don't have jobs in India, no jobs, and Sitaraman doesn't know how. In fact, she says there are no figures for unemployment, and she has the guts to get the finance ministry back and say this, will pursue reforms to push growth, macro stability, says FM. What macro stability? Because when you look at this, rupee logs new record low of 83.57 versus the dollar. You know the shape of the economy and her reforms. Why everybody loves her? global capital loves her because they want these guys in play. This is because of this. BPCL adds fuel to Capex fire, hires iBank for 31,000 crore loan. And where's all that loan going to come from? Overseas. They are salviating everybody. High interest rates in India, lots of money requirement. They don't care if India's poor remain poor and the economy nosedives, the rupee goes to hell, but nobody cares. And that's why you have Ruchi Sharma, right? Capitalism crisis is that it's not what it was meant to be. True. He says, yes, but I think what I argue in the book today is the fact that the system we currently have in place in America is not really capitalism as it was meant to be. It's very distorted form of capitalism. It is what Bernie Sanders and all called socialism for the rich. What I try and say is that it is not just socialism for the rich, but socialization of risk. Getting the poor to hog it up. And what Big Plate says is, Big Plate of supply side up, Chitan Ahaya says, economies can be redistribute their way to prosperity, only growth will lift people out of poverty. He's absolutely wrong. We've had growth in the last 5 years. Highest growth every time is highest growth. And people like Chitan Ahaya says highest growth, right? And they don't then have to explain this. Retail inflation eases in May, food costs soar. US consumer inflation on eases ahead of Fed rate decision. And then you have farmers' focus will make Bharat bulwark terrorism, says Shah. But they don't know how to provide. They're as you call middlemen, businessmen. They are not farmers. They don't know how to make anything. They just know how to trade. So he's not going to get the farmers, right? And like he said, redistribute the way to prosperity, only growth will lift people out of poverty. It won't. If it is crony capitalist driven, if it is driven just by redistribution of already existing assets, no inflowing FDI, which has not happened, and FDI will not come into to nuts and bolts if there is not free and fair competition, which there isn't because you have these groups and the world knows hogging up the space. Adani Group concrete plan, 3 billion buyout in cement space. Ambuja Cements to acquire Penna Cement for 10,422 crores. And at the same time, you're beginning to see something problematic in the economy. Vehicle registrations up just 3% and buyers delay purchase plans. Pitching to assist India to develop EV sector, says Australian envoy. India production growth slips to 3-month low in April. That, folks, is the reality. These guys and the alliance, folks. India alliance is in trouble. Too many complications, too many contradictions. Right here comes out day after Meghwal says UCC on table. Ally JDU says only through consensus. News are suggesting that Nitish is angry. You have problem with Shinde's group that's angry. But on the other hand, this bloc is on the roll. India's bloc regional allies outdo Congress in putting check on BJP. MBA to begin alliance talks early, lay groundwork for Maharashtra polls. Strong alliance here for the Congress. Strong alliance in the UP. And India keeps slipping. India slips 2 notches to 129 in WEF Global Gender Gap Index. And what happened to Article 370? And all that stuff is this. And National Security Advisor reappointed. 9 pilgrims killed, 33 injured as terrorists attack bus in J&K's Riyasi. Terror strikes Jammu, 3 gunfights in 26 hours. And what does General Hussain have to say? He is unfortunately a bought-out general, right? Redrawing the red line. India must calibrate Riyasi response, but under no circumstances must assembly elections be put on. Maybe it's being done because of that, right? He says, a single event can sometimes upset the apple cart of stability, carefully facilitated through the last 5 years after the bold decision to remove Article 370. Several hard measures have been taken to break the pact, but it's actually not been broken. But what I want to bring to fore is another scam of projects. Everybody says, oh, Sarkar, projects, a lot of work Prime Minister's done. But here, 101,838 projects started by the peer. Okay. 792 are running late. 448 are way above cost. 192 that should have already been completed now are saying 2026. 260 that were supposed to be completed in 2020 are now being completed in 2027, were supposed to be completed now. 121 in 2028 were to be completed now. And all are overrunning by 5.51 lakh crores. The question is, Who's sending all this 100 lakh crore for infrastructure person? Where is it going? Nobody knows. 5G, 2G, nobody knows. Right? Because 5G was bigger than 2G. Right? CAG, no reports. There you had Vinod Rai. Oh, but I know how many lakh crores he did. Because ED is showing no interest at all in economic offenses. 3 cheers, folks, and Jai Hind. Wait for my next update.